to be fair, she kind of flirts with him at times as well.
She does.
And like just in a very quiet way. She's like, "Don't you want to spend time with me? Don't you like me?" And I'm just like, "Girl, play it. Play to those strings."
Yeah. There was like a scene where she was just like, "If you don't eat a sundae with me, I'm going to hate you." And she says it in the cutest little way because it's like a stupid little game that's going on in the house. But he's just like instantly like, "Oh, she's so cute." And I'm like, same though.
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Shoujo Treehouse, where two girls sit inside a rickety old treehouse and talk about girly stuff. Mostly just anime that we like. Doesn't necessarily have to be super girly. Just tends to be the trend here in this rickety old shack.
Because we have the best taste. That's why.
Of course. Totally nothing ever problematic ever happening up in this house.
Nope.
Looks to the left, looks to the right. But before we get to talking a little bit about that, I wanted to go ahead and say hello and welcome you to another episode of Shoujo Treehouse. Basically, these are just little fun, free-form episodes that me and Cami do whenever we, have extra time, which, considering we're only on episode 3, that shows how little actual extra time we have in our daily regimen, as it were. But we're here today. And after many different attempts to watch several different anime, we landed on the one and the only Inu X Boku Secret Service, or Inu X Boku SS if you're into that kind of thing. I guess we could just roll right into all their production stuff, but before we do that, I wanted to give Cami a chance to introduce herself since I'm bulldozering through our entire freaking outline over here.
I mean, yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. I think that these episodes are really, really fun to talk about with Cassie because we just get to go in depth on a lot of shows that we have a history with. Case in point with this show, and sometimes new ones that we've checked out. If you do enjoy these segments and want to hear more, definitely let us know because it is hard to make time for these, but we do have a lot of fun with them. So let us know if you like what you hear.
And we'll give you all the deets on how to do that towards the end of the show. So now you're stuck here. Now you got to commit through the whole bit before you find out how to tell us if you like it at all.
Stay tuned.
That's so ace.
Oh
anyway. Should just find random things throughout the show to just say S, M at.
Your reference game is on fire today.
Oh, yes. It's really all I've got left. It's a Sunday, and I'm, like, in the waiting for the work week mode, so I'm just kind of, like, trying to delay the inevitable in every way, shape, and form. And if it has to go through, quoting and or referencing Inu X Boku SS, at least I'm in the moment,
Yes.
Anyway, a little bit of deets about Inu X Boku Secret Service. It was animated by Studio David Production, which is insane to me. Other shows by them are JoJo, Sagarada Reset, and Cells at Work, which 2 out of those 3 I really enjoy. Well, sort of. I liked the first season of JoJo. I think JoJo's pretty well regarded, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I've never heard anything bad about production. If anything, I think it just goes a lot harder in production than a lot of people think it needs to. So that's a big plus.
And this is kind of a throwback because it aired in winter of 2012.
Oh my god.
So that's pretty neat. Makes you feel a little old.
We were still in college at that time, undergrad.
Yeah, and I think I watched a bit of this as it was airing, and then I watched the rest after I got out of college. I think I like watched part of it, and then I can't remember if you recommended it to me or somebody did, or we just watched it at the same time initially.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
This is one of
Something happened.
This is one of those ones I think that, like, when our friendship was in its early stages, it was just one of those ones that we were both familiar with and, like, had in our belts. Because I feel like over time, you and I have shown each other so many different shows, but then we also became friends because literally, like, oh, you love Penguin Drum? I love Penguin Drum. This is amazing. Let's be best friends. And I feel like this one was kind of in that collective library, I guess.
For sure. Getting started on what this little show is about for everybody who's not in the know. Let's go ahead and roll out this good old Mal synopsis and hope there's no typos. Rurichio Shirakin is the sheltered daughter of a renowned family. With her petite build and wealthy status, Rurichio has been a protected, independent girl her entire life, but now she has decided to change all that. However, there's just one eensy-beensy teeny-weeny little problem. The young girl has a sharp tongue she can't control and terrible communication skills. With some help from a childhood friend, Rurichio takes up residence in Mansion de Ayakashi. I don't know if I said that right. Mansion de Ayakashi?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, no. Ayakashi-kan. A secluded high-security apartment complex that is home to a host of bizarre individuals. Furthermore, their quirky personalities are not the strangest thing about them. Each inhabitant, including Rurichio herself, is actually half human, half yokai. But Rurichio's troubles have only just begun. As a requirement of staying in her new home, she must be accompanied by a Secret Service agent. Rurichio's new partner, Soshi Miketsukamikun, is handsome, quiet, but ridiculously clingy and creepily submissive. With Soshi, her new supernatural neighbors, and the beginning of high school, Rurichio definitely seems to have a difficult path ahead of her. Ba-dum-tsh.
Wow, that was an amazing read of that synopsis. I just have to give you credit there.
I just have to say, like, Soshi's last name is one of the most satisfying things to say.
Miketsukami!
Miketsukami-kun.
Yes. Agreed.
I just love it. Every time I heard it in the show, too, I was just like, ah, yeah, that's his name. It's so pleasant. It just rolls right off the tongue.
Indeed.
But yeah, I think that this is a really good surface level synopsis of what the show is about. Considering what else happens in the show all kind of falls into like kind of like skits of the day kind of things within this kind of world that they set up in the first episode. So, you know, you've got this really distinguished Ayakashi-kan that everybody lives in. And you know, by the end of episode 1 that, of course, the people who take residence there are half yokai and half human. And they are basically, supposedly, kind of clones of the people who they've been reincarnated from, which I wish they had kind of explored more of that. I thought that was actually kind of a cool little bit of the story, and they bring it up a couple of times. But I guess a good starting place for this show would be to, in regards to the story, maybe talk about the pacing, talk about things that we like that they did with the story, and maybe some things that, you know, kind of were a little under the par, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I've watched this show multiple times. I think I've watched the show 3 times. And what always brings me back to it, and what I look fondly back on this show for, is that to me, it's a nice, sweet little romance story. And I'm a sucker for those in anime. And I think that this show, for having 12 episodes, to kind of go through an arc about 2 people meeting and making a connection and just growing closer together, I think fit nicely in the amount of time that the show had. I'm with you, and I think that there is a lot of world building and hints to like deeper story details that, as you said, if you really look at it, they just touch on and then kind of drop off of. So I think that it is understandable to maybe be like, this kind of doesn't really fully deliver on the story. I think it depends on what you are going to the story for. I think for me, as kind of a romance and a lighthearted, like, slice of life comedy, I think that the story worked pretty well in the narrative and the pacing. But what about you?
For sure. I actually kind of agree for the most part. I think that the romance that is developed in this show, and the fact that it is developed over a 12-episode length, and through the interactions of the socially awkward girl and this dude who has a very interesting and I don't know, dark, I wouldn't say dark past, but interesting past, and how they view themselves as people, because they both obviously have self-deprecating behavior.
Yes.
And they don't like themselves, which I guess we'll get more into in characters. And I like how the story really builds up that these two people who can't seem to connect with other people are able to, after identifying that they're not really connecting with each other, are able to bridge that gap. And I honestly think I would have liked the anime more. I already do like it a lot, but I think I would have liked it more if we focused more on that, actually. I would have liked a few more awkward interactions with them. For example, there is an episode where she tries, for the love of God, to just invite this dude to tea or coffee. And it was one of my favorite episodes because there's just so much like tension and so much like looking into how somebody who has Ririchio's problems with communication can even try to convey a simple request.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the show shines the most.
Yeah.
However, I do think that I'm a tinge bit disappointed because there's so many other side characters that are so fun. I love most of the side characters. They're just such bizarre individuals, but I don't feel like past service level I really got to know many of them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's enough there for me to be like, oh, that's a nice little treat right there. I'm happy that I bought this $1 candy bar at the store, but, like, as soon as I'm done with it and I had that sweet little moment, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not much more for me to sink my teeth into or really enjoy because it's all surface level. But where they wanted you to focus and the characters that are the centerpiece of the story, I think they did really well.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same thing, and I'd have to agree with you. If they did lean more into interactions between Soshi and Ririchio, I would have been really happy to see that. One of my favorite episodes, the tea one, is definitely another really good one. I also really like episode 4, I believe it is, which is where they're at like the conference thing. And there's a scene that happens with like water being splashed, and like it's a really, really nice episode that kind of highlights how they are both developing through knowing each other and how they kind of inspire each other. And I love that. I'd like to lean more into that as well. And maybe tell me if you think about this. I think it might have been nice if we had maybe a little bit more time for the backstory on each of them.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, especially Soshi, because it's like one episode.
Yeah, it's one episode, and like, to be fair, at least he got an episode. Like, Ririchio, for the most part, is just like little 2-minute flashback scenes.
Yeah.
They are powerful scenes.
Yes.
But it's like, you blink, you miss them.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, the most like emotionally gripping part of Ririchio's backstory for me is told through Soshi's episode anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're right.
So it's just, I would have liked a little more focus, because I think when they do have focus on those two characters, the anime is at its best.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have especially because they do a lot of foreshadowing at the beginning of the show, in particular in that scene that you mentioned, I think from like episode 3 or 4 with the water splashing.
Mm-hmm.
Soshi states a lot of stuff about Ririchio that he obviously could not have known within like a day.
That's true.
Like, it shows that they have a past, and at the end of the show, she reflects back on those moments, and she's like, oh my God, I should have, realized some stuff sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So those bits of foreshadowing are almost lost when, the next episode is, oh, the house is shut down because these little blobs that like to stick to people are shutting the place down, I guess.
Yeah. That felt kind of filler.
Yeah, or, hey, let's all have a race between the different pairs to see what they can do. Let's have a quiz. Or, this grated the hell out of me. So, episode 11, there is a lot of, build-up and closure to a secret that Soshi has been keeping from Ririchio. And there's this really big, dramatic moment. And then episode 12 starts with this little kid that I don't give 2 shits about.
Oh, God, yeah.
And, like, the first 10 to 12 minutes are about a situation with him and his dad. And I'm like, listen, kid, I get the little story you're trying to tell. It's even kind of cute how it's resolved. But I don't give a shit. I want to go back to Soshi and Mauricio and letters and feelings and emotion. Go away.
That's very true. And I think, again, it goes right back to what you said about focus. And there are just times in this show where little segments will pop up and you're like, but wait, we just did this really good stuff. How did we get here? I don't understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the show was written by an ADHD genius. Like, because, like, the moments are comedy, for the most part, are actually pretty funny. Most of the stuff with Watanuki as, like, kind of problematic and evil as it is, made me laugh. I think a lot of the conversations between him and Romomia, I believe her name is.
Yes.
My brain.
Karuta.
Karuta. That's an easier way to put it. I'll just call her Karuta from now on. Like, all of their interactions were great. So I love every little aspect of the show. When it tries to be funny, it's pretty funny. When it tries to be serious and romantic, it's really good. It's just, those don't meld together very well sometimes.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like whiplash. So it's like somebody who wrote this was just like, oh, and this would be a good idea. But wait! What if I do this? And it's just like somebody like hopped up on caffeine trying to write a romance story.
God, I remember this one part where Mauricio is like dealing with all this conflict, and then all of a sudden we get good old Kagero, who's like, you know what you need? You need to go on one of these like S&M expeditions with me. And he runs through the same skit that we have already seen, but he's just pulling Mauricio along, and she's like, I don't want to be here. And me as a viewer, I'm like, I don't want to be here. Why are we doing this? This feels exactly like you said. Someone's just like, you know what? I'm just going to have this character run in and just like hijack the story for a second just because I want to.
And there was no point to that whole situation or that whole endeavor. Like, it would be one... I think that, like, the implication is Kagero was just trying to get under Soshi's skin, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, their relationship is kind of weird and doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many, like, mixed signals. Like, do they hate each other? Are they friends?
Mm-hmm.
Is it both? Is Kagero an antagonist? I don't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, they don't make some of the, as you said before, they don't make some of the side characters' like intentions and development very clear. When they do, and we can talk about that in characters, I do enjoy it. But again, I'm kind of left with you and like, I would have liked more. So I feel that.
Yeah.
Do you think this show would have worked as a 24-episoder?
You know,
Yeah.
I think it could have.
Yeah, I think so too.
Especially because I think it's based off a manga that ran longer than what was depicted.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was.
I think you're right.
I think that if like it was spread between two core, it probably wouldn't have felt so much like Whiplash, especially if we had more of like the Monster of the Week episodes, because there's one in episode 1, and then they're gone, and then they come back. And the thing is, they have, like, all these badass transformations into, like, their yokai forms. But there's never, like, any real reason for it.
Yeah.
Like, almost every situation gets resolved without them really having to do much of anything.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, especially in the first few episodes, they're really nice, almost like action sequences to a degree. Like, just those more intense scenes. But then the stakes end up being like really easily solved or like not touched upon again. And kind of as you said, I feel like that's a bit of like untapped potential that would have been really cool to see expanded. And then maybe we would have gotten like more development on some of the side arcs, specifically with like Karuta and Watanuki, because I love their plot thread a lot, and I wish we saw more of it.
Yeah, we get more of them than we get of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what Zange's deal is. He just seems to be there to be a troll, but he's great. I want to know what his backstory is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I kind of want to know, because, like, all of them obviously are descended from, like mythological yokai or whatever. But like, why are some of them Secret Service and some of them being protected? Does it have to do with like status? Does it have to do with, oh, this is just something I want to do? Because with Soshi, it seemed like, oh, I just want to be a Secret Service agent, so now I am. So I was just like, wait, why? And honestly, why do these like supernatural yokai need to be defended? Like, in Watanuki's case, I kind of get it. But, like, some of them, I'm just like, they're perfectly capable of taking care of. I'm pretty sure Mauricio could take care of herself. She seems to be pretty good with her little spear. Not that I would know, because she never really uses it outside of one episode, but
Yeah.
she seems to be pretty able to take care of herself. So why does she need I guess it's, from the way they put it, it's a requirement of the house they live in, the apartment complex, but like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe I'm just thinking about it too much, because the show isn't meant to be taken that seriously, I don't think, but I still would have liked it. I would have liked to know for lore reasons.
Yeah, and the manga might expand on that. I think I had the first volume years ago, but I don't know. ADD, I lost it somewhere. So
it'll happen.
Yeah, that'll happen. I do think that, despite these qualities, I do think story overall is solid. Like I said, for the key components that I turned to this show for, it was very much enjoyable. But it could have been a little better. I think that's kind of the takeaway. The meat of actually what I really wanted to talk about in this review is characters. If you are...
yeah.
Because as we hinted to earlier in the discussion, this show has just a really colorful and large cast. And they're all just really fun, even on a surface level. It's like a fun group of characters to share a space and like get to know and watch them interact. And I think without that, I might not have enjoyed the show as much as I did. So, keeping that in mind, my favorite character who I have as my icon is the one and only Rightful, who just falls into a trope that I really appreciate, which is I'm really bad at expressing my feelings and connecting to other people, but I'm going to learn how to feel feelings and speak my feelings to other people. Like, I'm just very weak for that. So I instantly was like, I'm not someone that I think immediately says like insults to people, except for when I unintentionally do, like yesterday.
Wait, when did that happen?
I think you said something about how I like shaded Zach really hard by saying something like
Oh yeah, because you're like, it's okay. I accept your tendencies.
I accept your lifestyle even if I don't approve of it. Yeah, stuff like that.
You just have this soft shade you throw around.
Here we go.
But it hits deep.
Oof. Okay. Noted. So, the point I think I was trying to get across is like I can't literally relate to Rightful, but I think everybody to a degree has suffered with communication blocks like once in a while and is afraid to reach out to people. And so getting to see her develop through that was just a journey that I really, really appreciated. She's also just so stinking cute. She has so many outfits. She's got her beautiful long purple hair, and I just like her a lot on an aesthetic level. I cosplayed her at SakuraCon, I think in 2013, like years ago. And I still have the outfit, but the wig I had was really gross, so I need to buy a new one. Maybe I'll dig that out one day and wear it again.
Do it.
Yeah. So I think she is my favorite character, but again, there are so many other characters that I find lovable. One in point is the icon that you are sporting in our call right now.
Good old Karuta. She is the very soft-spoken, airheaded girl, which is a trope I love a lot. I love the soft, quote-unquote, kind of in their own little world characters, but they're also ridiculously smart. One of the scenes that makes me laugh every time is there is an episode dedicated to how Karuta always has her head in the cloud. She's always doing, like, weird and, like, strange things, and then Rightful and Karuta have to cook together, and Riichio's like, oh no, how am I going to get through this? And then Karuto ends up, like, actually schooling her.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that she's actually extremely intelligent and can put together a meal better than most people. Also, her interactions with another side character, Watanuki, are just really cute. And I ship it real hard.
Yeah!
It's very soft.
Oh, I love them.
Like, as much as I love, like, tragic tales that, like, make my heart, like, break. Because, like, the romance between Soshi and Rurichio gets me every time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene when we go into, when we go into a spoiler room, which I'd love to do later. But I messaged Cami last night. I don't know if you saw it. And I was just like, that elevator scene every time.
Oh, my God.
Just makes me cry. I just can't.
Oh, yes.
But while I love that kind of relationship, I just sometimes just need something soft. Mm-hmm. And Watanuki and Karuta are just so soft. And on a rewatch, I'm pretty sure the two have, like, mutual feelings for each other.
Yeah.
I wasn't so sure the first time I watched through. I thought it was kind of like a one-sided, obvious, like, love on Watanuki's part, and Karuta was just, like, too airheaded to notice. But I think she's actually a little bit more knowledgeable than she first lets on, and she's always going to his rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where they have, like, a little quiz, and when they're trying to say, oh, like, what things they like about each other, and, like, they have, like, a scene where they're, like, looking at each other, and there's this, like little cute little background, and Zange is just like, well, they're in their own little world, moving on. And I was like, yeah, they are. Yeah, my babies are.
She kind of, to be fair, she kind of flirts with him at times as well.
She does.
And, like, just
She does.
in a very quiet way. She's like, don't you want to spend time with me? Don't you like me? And I'm just like, girl, play it. Play to those strings.
Yeah. There was, like, a scene where she was just like, if you don't eat a sundae with me, I'm going to hate you. And she says it in the cutest little way, because it's like a little, like a stupid little game that's going on in the house, but he's just, like, instantly like, oh, she's so cute. And I'm like, same though.
I also love the you could call it inverse, at least, to, like, Soshi and Dorichio. I like the inverse S&M dynamic between them a lot, where Karuta is kind of the S and Watanuki's more masochistic. It works well.
She also has one of my favorite lines in the entire show, where one of the other characters asks her, what do you want to be in the next life? And she's like, I want to be a steamed bun. And then he's like, so you just want to be eaten? And then she says, I want to keep eating until the day I am finally the one being eaten. And I'm like, I don't know why this is so funny to me, but it is.
And then doesn't Nobara, like, freak out in the background about what she says?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Nobara, I like Nobara's character a lot, too. She kind of has, like some other characters, like Kagero, she kind of has a running joke where, like, Kagero's is S&M, hers is really to just kind of scream maniac and go after cute girls, but it's just so well implemented and charming that I enjoyed it most of the time. It made me laugh.
I just wish she had more to her personality than raging lesbian.
Yeah.
Like, because she seems so literally cool, like, you know, because of her yokai power.
I think, yes, the Ice Queen.
Yeah, like, I thought, and also I really wanted to see more interactions between her and, oh god, I always forget his name.
The scroll guy?
The scroll guy. Because it's like, they have an ED together. And it's implied that they kind of go back and forth. Because I think she's his Secret Service agent, I believe.
Yeah, they always show up in the background, whether it's to their pleasure or not. Because they have a weird banter where they, like, get along and mutually respect each other, but they're also kind of like, why do I have to be stuck with you a lot?
Yeah, and I want to see more of that. I wanted that to be explored. I wanted a flashback scene to when he first came to the Ayakashi-kan, and she was like, oh no, I got a mail.
Yeah, honestly.
Or something like that. I don't care. I wish some more time was spent with her, because she's got such a beautiful design.
Mm-hmm.
Her yokai power is, like, one of the ones I like. I love Ice Queens. They're my fave.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish we spent more time with her, because she's so funny, and she has, like, some soft moments early on with Rurichio as well, like when she's like, oh, I'll do your hair for you, and
yeah,
stuff like that. But outside of the surface level, like, joke. We don't get to spend a lot of time with her, which makes me sad. And in a way, Karuta's the same way. Like, her thing is always food. Food and messing with Watanuki. We don't really get to find out much about her outside of her kind of sort of dedicated episode.
Yeah.
But it's just, oh, there's more to her than her being spacey and just eating food all the time. And it's like, oh, really? Tell us more. No.
I think out of the background cast, probably outside of Zange. I think Zange I literally know nothing about, but I also feel like I really don't know anything about Rensho, the squirrel guy, especially just because his whole, like, everybody has their, like, kind of over the top gag, their deal, like you were just talking about, but, like, if Rensho has one, it's literally just that he's chill, like he's really laid back.
Yeah.
So, like, he has no presence. He's just there. And his character design is so cool. His human one, I mean, his scroll is weird, but I like his character design as a human.
You take that back. His scroll is adorable.
I mean, it's cute. It's cute. I don't know if I find it as intriguing as, like, the cool tattoo, like, under his eye that he has, and he's a guy with a ponytail.
Yeah.
I wish that we got more on him. Like, we get the one write-off, oh, you're childhood friends, but I'm also, like, but, like, you and Mauricio have, like, varying ages. How did you meet? Give me more.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have, like, this really soft, like, conversation towards the end of the show where he's like, you know, you've changed a whole lot. And she's like, well, I mean. And then he, like, you know, gives her a little head pat. And it's soft and it's cute, but it almost feels undeserved because they don't talk to each other more than 5 minutes. Like, like, I think they go out and buy cell phones with each other, like, in the first couple of episodes. And then after that, it's like, outside of passing greetings, like, we don't have an episode where they hang out or talk about their past or anything. It's just, oh, hey, you wrote me an apology letter once. Guess we're besties.
Like, at that point, it would have been more impactful to have, like, Karuta say that to Mauricio because they had more bonding than, than, like, Rensho and Mauricio at that point. We're ignoring a very handsome elephant in the room. I just realized.
Because he's a very big elephant. There's a lot. There's a lot.
I'm just gonna say, like, yes, there are many things about Soshi that I still find very problematic, but also I still find him very hot and, like,
for sure,
my brand of Bishi TM. Like,
he also has a fun name to say,
Mikatsukami-kun. So Soshi at first is always described as, and I was thinking about this recently actually, there are plenty of, like, cat boys within anime. There are not nearly as many dog boys. There's, like, Inuyasha and Soshi. that's the dog boys in anime. But for Soshi, like, they lean into it almost, like, a little too hard. Like he's, like, a little too loyal, like, to a point where it's creepy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, because his whole thing is, like, he can't... It's funny, because with him pursuing Mauricio and wanting to be part of her world, he's, in a way, accepting, like, a freedom, a freedom of pleasure for himself to, you know, be in her service, but at the same time, it's almost like he's punishing himself. So it's, like... It's intricate and it's intricately interesting. And I just think it's creepy, but it's very reflective of his upbringing.
Yeah.
And when you find out what actually happened with him, it's kind of like a little light bulb over your head where you're like, oh,
of
no.
course. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's honestly really sad, and I very much I wanted him to find happiness, and that was something that, like his journey and his development was also very satisfying. And I think, honestly, when I first watched the show, like, even his creepiness, I just kind of wrote off because I was like, I want cute romance with pretty Bishi boy. I'm down for this. Let's just go.
Holding real life standards to anime anyway is just kind of like, why? Like, of course I'm not gonna ever, like, condone, like, a yandere relationship in real life, but I find yandere stories, like, fascinating. So this creepy stalker dude who's chasing after a girl 6 years younger than him, sure, why not?
And we can talk about this. I think we kind of have in passing. But, like, for me, I don't think that the age difference was a deal to me at all. Didn't bother me.
I mean, I think it's just, it helps that the show is self-aware. Like, there's a conversation that they have with Mauricio where they're like, are you sure that, you know, it's not just purely respect? I mean, he is, you know, 7 years your senior. And then Maniac Lady, lovely lady, is just like, I mean, he isn't the type to have moral issues with that. So, like, they bring it to the forefront that it is a moral issue, but that if everybody in the situation is okay with it, it's fine.
Yeah. And I mean,
so
Mauricio's originally betrothed to someone that's also older than her, like through the family arrangement. So I mean, if she consensually now, you know, finds feelings for someone older than her, yeah, I think it's fine as long as there are consent and there is boundaries. And even while the show likes to joke about gray boundaries, like I feel like there are respected boundaries. Yeah. I'm thinking there at a specific after credit scene in the last episode, but no need to dive into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the show knows what it is. It knows what it's like. It knows it's being creepy. It's not, like, idolizing it. If anything, a lot of the backstory and the resolve of the show does the exact opposite. It shows, hey, he has these really bad tendencies. Here's why. And that to me is a lot better than, oh, hey, here's this thing just because it's tropey, and hey, wouldn't it be funny? Also, he is gorgeous, and I love him. I love his interactions with other characters as well. He's almost like, he like reads the room with every single one of them, which again is a trait that once you realize why he is that way, it's almost just kind of sad, all of his interactions with everyone. But he does his best to really just be like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, roll with the punches. Everybody's being crazy. I'm just gonna smile and nod because I don't care. He's very good at just evaluating situations and adjusting to meet the status quo, whether he cares or not.
Yeah, I think this show actually has a lot of rewatch value just in exploring Soshi's character, considering, again, like you said, if you take his backstory into mind and then go back to things like the first episode, and there's a way that he reacts to hearing something from Mauricio, and someone could think, oh, that seems a little over the top, but it's like, oh no, there's a lot more to that. Oh, dang, you know, just like keeping his whole backstory in perspective. So, yeah, I think the fact that both the leads are well fleshed out and work really well together, again, makes a strong romance anime. So, good going there.
For real.
Yeah. I mean, on character, I feel like we've covered it. Like, there are other characters. I feel like we've talked a little bit about Kagero and how he's kind of like gray, as in, is he an antagonist? Is he just comedic relief? What's he thinking? And it's not super well explained. That's pretty much it on him.
And I would argue that it's not even that well executed because it seems like his character just changes to fit whatever situation. If he needs to look like he's being antagonistic 1 minute, he'll say something where you're just like, wow, what a jerk. And then he'll turn around and be like, ah ha ha, no. I didn't mean that all along. Here, I'm sorry. Murr. You know, it's just, I don't know. A lot of his scenes fell flat for me unless they were purely for comedy.
Yeah. I think he worked great as comedic relief. And I guess, like, to that degree, if we had to have someone basically play the plot device that he is, I'm glad that he is kind of eccentric and has a personality rather than just being, like, super bland, I guess. But at the end of the day, he's not one of my, like, huge highlights from the show, outside of comedic skits.
Yeah, he has a really great ED, which I guess we'll get to in production, but the show has a different ED for most of the characters in the show. At least the ones that are highlighted, as in, like, the main cast, kind of.
Do you think that was compensation for lack of time for exploring them in the show?
I guess so. It's just like, here is a a weirdly fun little ED to explore, like, and they're also vastly, like, different in regards to, like, music, and I think they're all sung by the seiyuu that they're, representing, I think.
I think you're right.
I think, because they sound the same. But yeah, it's just a nice little cherry on top to, like, just be like, aw. But I do like in Kagero's ED where he starts slashing the credits and, like, marking people as S's or M's or whatever. It's just, he's the SM guy I keep referencing. That's his thing, calling everybody either a sadist or a masochist. That's his deal.
Yep. His deal, his spiel.
For sure. Yeah, I think the characters really make this show fun because they're, like, for the parts of the story that I like, for everything else, there isn't much. Like, it's like, go to school, some random thing happens, maybe a monster shows up, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we get to follow Karuta for a little bit. Maybe we get to awkwardly see what happened to Watanuki and random little tiny split flashbacks. Like, it's such an ADHD plot, but the characters that make it up make it make sense.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think that, yeah, they make sense and they're enjoyable. Because again, I don't think that without that, the show would have as much staying power.
Yeah. I think that there's only one character I'm not fond of, and that's not because I'm not fond of the character, I'm just not fond of how they're treated.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really transphobic stuff that happens in the show.
Yeah.
And some slurs. So if that is something that might upset you, maybe skip I think it's like one of the last episodes. I can't remember. I think it's like episode 10. I can't remember. But then you skip part of the story, which would be terrible. I don't know. Just know it's there, I guess.
Yeah, kind of a flag. Just like in Lovely Complex, it's like, hey, this happens at a point.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's worse than Lovely Complex, though, because it's like a running joke. And it uses a slur, which is...
Yeah, in Lovely Complex, it's just not calling by their name, which is still terrible, but it's not using a hateful slur. So
yeah. But anyway, other than that, I like all of the characters, even Kagero for some of his scenes.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And on that note, actually, especially because you mentioned the credits, I'm good to roll into talking about production if you want.
Yeah. Let's go.
Because I think this show is really, really pretty. It's prettily
It
animated.
Is.
I love it.
Go David Production. Look at you go.
Yeah. As I was talking to Cassie about this earlier, I was saying that I didn't realize for the longest time that the show was done by David Production because I don't think I paid as much attention to studios back when I watched this show. And then when I had first started hearing about David Production, I only knew them as the JoJo's people. I wouldn't have ever put two and two together that they did this sweet little, like, cutesy romance show that gives into, like, all those tropes, like the cherry blossoms and the really flowy hair and, like, just all the pretty scenes. I don't know. I wouldn't have anticipated it, but here we are.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And like, it's so crazy because you could tell that they had fun with every little aspect. Like you mentioned, the floaty pebbles.
Fruity pebbles.
Mauricio's hair is so freakishly well animated. I hate it. There's like a scene where she just like very softly pushes her hair behind her ear, and then like the hair that was pushed behind her ear like falls slowly over her shoulder, and I'm like, why are they giving so much detail to this? It's so beautiful. I hate this. I hate how well this is animated.
It's insane, honestly.
And honestly, like, for the most part, I literally can't complain about the production because it won't let me, and that makes me mad. Like, let me be mad. The only thing I can really say, and the camera has some very, I'd like to diagnose it with a case of the male gaze. Because there are several just shots that there's no reason. Like, it's one thing when you have the bounce of titties, because there was like a scene where the maid girl and Miss Maniac were just poking each other's boobies.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of distasteful, but whatever. They're two girls being silly. I don't care. But then there's like a scene where like Mauricio is like cleaning her room and she's like on her knees like vacuuming something. And there's this weird upshot from between her legs. And I'm like, why?
There's honestly a lot. Like if you go through the show with the intention of looking for like every butt shot, every like thigh shot, there's a lot. And it's definitely something that, again, I just really, when I watched the show originally, I think had just erased from my mind. But as Cassie said, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of Mauricio bending down. There's a lot of times that, like, they take a lot of time to show her getting dressed in the morning, which, like, to be honest, they don't really need to do.
No.
Yeah, and some of, like, the half shirts and, like, under, it's just, it feels creepy. It feels creepy if you, when you notice it, because I wouldn't even say if, when you notice it. It's a bit uncomfortable, and again, I'd be curious to check out the manga and see how everything is illustrated to know if that was just a carryover or some weird choice in production. Who knows?
Hard to tell. But otherwise, everything is just so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The opening is so cool. I love the opening. I love the opening song. I love how intense it is. I love all the dark, creepy imagery, even though we don't really get that in the show very much at all. I don't know. I think it's like kind of like K-On! Syndrome to me, that the opening kind of made me a little disappointed with the show when I first watched it. Because I was like, oh, this is going to get so gritty and dark, and oh, I'm so excited for all the different colors and the purples and the yellows. Whereas with like K-On!, like that show always started and ended with like kind of like a musical number, and them singing and dancing or whatever, mostly singing. And I was like, oh, cool, this show is going to be mostly about girls singing and rocking their little hearts out. And then I watched the first few episodes and was like, this is not what I came here for.
Yeah, I get that.
But I stuck with Inu X Boku Secret Service, and I still think the opening is a highlight for me. It's just so good. I like it a lot. And I also like the paper airplane, now that I know what the significance is.
Oh, emotions. My emotions. Yes. Yeah, I think this song has grown on me. It's not one of my, like, all-time favorites, but I think it was just a reaction of, as you said, being kind of tilted because it's like, oh, this is very different from the show, but I love the visuals a lot for the reasons that you said. Like, that's always stuck out to me and been something that I really enjoyed. The art style itself is, like, almost very different. Like, especially with the really, like, the heavily outlined backgrounds with, like, all the sharp, jagged, almost like, I can't think of it. Like stained glass. There's kind of like a stained glass aesthetic with like the backgrounds. And it's really cool. And it's really enjoyable. So yeah.
It is.
The EDs. Do you have a favorite ED out of the EDs that are shown?
Sweets Parade.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
Haruto's ED is the best ED. Going back, again, like, I watched the ED, and I still love it, and I still think it's beautiful, but for some reason, like, I completely forgot about all the fan servicey shots of her in that ED.
Oh, yeah!
Like, I completely embraced them, because I was like, oh, it's just, really pink, and she's eating sweets, and chasing a little Watanuki around. Oh, it's so cute. And then I watched it at the end of, I can't remember what episode it was at the end of. I think it was, like, 4 or 5 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, there's like one part of the ED that's just a shot of her in different fetishy outfits, and I'm like, oh yeah, oops.
Yeah.
ED is still amazing though. It's really good.
Exact same thoughts. Because I think after you had posted the Twitter posts about it, I was on the bus and I was like, all right, time to go put it on YouTube again. Time to watch it again. And then I was like, look at all these outfits she's wearing. Oh, she's in like a swimsuit in this one. And I like put my phone down so people around me wouldn't see what I was watching. Which is just sketchy. But you just forget about it or don't think about it when you first watch it, I guess. So your enjoyment and your notice may vary depending on what you look for and what your mileage is with fan service and anime.
For sure. I think in this case, it's not so egregious that I found a super big problem with it. Like, there's maybe like a tiny scene like every 2 or 3 episodes. It's not like every single episode has something that's very fan servicey. Like even the scenes of Riichio getting dressed or bending over aren't so sexual that I felt gross.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of, yeah, that sure is a thing.
Yeah. More one of those shrugs.
Yeah, it's not kind of like with Fire Force where we're 3 episodes in and our main character has his hands down a girl's pants because, Lucky Lecturer. It's not that kind of gross.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Sweets Parade is the most memorable musical thing for me, and the opening is also very, like, well recognized. It's very unique. I can't remember much of the soundtrack, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it, like, during the feel-good moments, again, it worked. It works in those moments. Like,
yeah, there's this one track I really like. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's played in episode 11 when Riichio's looking at her box of letters, and it's this very soft, like, piano piece, but then, like, randomly in the audio, it'll sound like a gear is clicking. So it's just, like, really soft, and then it's like, and then just keeps going, and I just thought it was a really interesting touch and really reflects the show. But outside of that, nope, can't remember a thing.
what about the voice acting?
10 out of 10. I watched it in Japanese because I tried to watch the English dub since I now own it on the Blu-ray VHS. Wow. Yep. The new
Brand spanking new.
They released those like Nintendo and the Genesis like versions of video games now where you can like buy a little mini version of these old consoles and play like really old video games. So wouldn't it be funny if someday we get like, the VHS makes a comeback for some stupid fucking reason.
I'd be down.
But yeah, I have the Blu-ray and I bought it because this lovely little title is going out of print. So if you have any interest in it, I guess watch it. I think it's on Crunchyroll. Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll, so you can watch it there, but you'll have to rush if you want to own it.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, tried the English dub, didn't like it, mostly because of Riichio's voice actress. And I normally like Hilary Haig. I think that she's very talented. I just don't think she was really fitting for this role.
Yeah.
But I loved the Japanese cast. Soshi especially did a really good job of sounding really creepy when he needed to, or sounding very soft. Whenever he would like almost cry her name, like when he was just like, Riichio-sama, I died a little on the inside.
It is funny to think about how creepy he sounds, because his voice actor Yuichi Nakamura is always like the wholesome, like often like dads. He's like the dad in Sweetness and Lightning. He's the main character in Poco's Udon World. He is Tomoya in Clannad. Like he's he's all these like wholesome boys, and then he just plays like the super creepy guy. It's great. He has a range.
He sure does. He's very, very talented. I'm also a huge fan of Riichio's VA. She has this very I don't want to say nasally, but she has this weird like soft yet slight, I don't want to say nasally. It's just like her voice is very unique.
I think I get what you're getting at.
And it fits her character type like just perfectly because it's just so soft.
Mm-hmm.
Yet firm at the same time. I don't know. It's just perfect character role things. Blah. I can't talk. It was a perfect role for this VA. She did a really good job.
She's very good. She captured a lot of just like very quiet but subtle emotional delivery, which is nice because Riichio tries to stay very composed and like reserved all the time, and you could still really tell like when she was feeling things and had that emotional delivery. There is a scene in episode 11 at a park where she's like whispering because she's like so nervous, but like, oh man, ooh, that got me. I got the feels. So yeah.
Her VA is Arina Hidaka.
Yeah, first off, she has a super long list of characters, and I'm scrolling through, but I don't recognize any yet. Maybe
I only recognize like one of them, but I don't remember the voice because it was from, I think it's Excel World.
Oh, it does look like she was Anko in Tamako Market. Interesting. Little sister.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. A lot of these other ones, actually, yeah, I really don't know. I went like through the whole playlist. But she does great here. I love her as Rurichio.
Also, Mamoru Miyano as Zange was absolutely fantastic.
And I didn't know
Zange
it.
also had a really good ED.
Yes. Oh, man. I didn't even know it for like years that was Mamoru Miyano. It's one of his more like I don't, it sounds weird to say it's one of his more reserved roles, but I guess it's more just like one where he's not full blown, hey, I'm Mamoru Miyano, like say Zombieland Saga, for example.
Also, Karuta's voice actress was the legendary Kana Hanazawa.
Hell yeah.
I loved every time she opened her mouth. She was so cute. I love this voice actress. She's so adorable.
Yes. Was perfect. I feel like Kagero was someone that's also like pretty well known. I have to explore and see.
I will have to look. He did a really good job in his role.
Tomokazu Sugita. Let's see.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, who do you know him as? Help me with this.
He's like, he does a lot. Like, he was in March Comes in Like a Lion. He was the dude with the glasses.
He was
who had
Smith?
The
Oh,
cat.
nice.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
Smith.
he was Smith. I'm trying to think of like more recent stuff, but he's been in a lot of shows.
Oh shit, wait, I remember this. When I heard Smith in March, I looked him up, and he's actually one of the lead characters in Honey and Clover as well, which is great. And
He was also the lead in Chobits.
No, wait, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at his list. He has like a massive amount of roles.
Yeah, he's like one of those names that I hear and I'm like, oh yeah, legendary.
So they had a really star-studded cast for the Japanese cast for the show. Nice.
They sure did. And I think that they all did an amazing job. The voice acting and the characters are the highlight of the show, along with the production. Like, those three things just go together so well.
Yeah, I'd have
Of course,
to say the same.
Voice acting being part of production. But y'all know what I mean. I can't words today.
Nah, you're good. Everybody's got it.
Aye. But yeah, I honestly can't think of, like, much else to say in regards to the production.
Yeah, it was just really pretty and good character designs and just well put together.
Yeah. I guess we can roll into our rating of this show, and then we can slip into a little spoiler room to talk about maybe some of our favorite moments that really made us gravitate towards watching this show again, outside of the fact that it was going out of print.
Yeah, that's how this all started, because we saw it was going out of print, so we both bought it at like the same time.
Yeah, we were originally going to be doing Snow White with the red hair, which we'll probably do on a future episode anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the next one, but maybe the next one. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we were going to do Snow White with the red hair, and then this went out of print, and we were like, oh my god, we just need to rewatch this. And I was like, let's just do it for a Shoujo Treehouse. Let's just do it.
Yes.
And obviously we bought it, so that kind of skews to what, at least what our ratings might be. We were willing to spend money on this.
Yeah.
But just so we can spell it out for everybody, let's just go ahead and talk about our rating for this show with our Shoujo Treehouse seal of approval or disapproval.
Ooh, we should officially implement that in later episodes. Be like, this gets a seal of approval or disapproval. I'm down for that.
Yeah. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
We can give our normal rating, and then we can just say if it gets the stamp of approval or not. I'm fine with that.
Alrighty. I'll go first.
You want to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Since you suggested it, you can go last. And really, I think short and sweet and to the point, and I think that's just because I have had this show in my library for many years. I think I watched it around the year that it aired, or like immediately right after that. This show has been kind of a long-standing favorite of mine. It was one that I watched with my friend Jasmine when I was pushing her through my anime favorites, and we watched this one. I watched it on my own. It's one that Cassie and I share together. It's a show that I revisited and like cosplayed from one year. I think it just kind of falls into, even with like its tropes and some of the issues I have with it, it just falls into checking all of my boxes, I think, in just like a very lighthearted, sweet, romantic comedy sort of story. The tinge of fantasy is really nice. I think the characters are all really appealing. I will say, going back as an adult and watching it, there are definitely some things that are a little bit skeevy or questionable. But at the end of the day, I really enjoy this show. While I don't think it is perfect, I think it is really good. It gets a high like it in my books, and I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of shoujo romance, supernatural stuff. Definitely give it a check. It's pretty short anyway, too. Like, what have you got to lose? Yeah, so I would recommend it, and I'm going to put in a vote for the seal of approval, but we can make this decision together based on our weighted ratings.
For sure. And you know what? I think that spoilers, I think that we're going to have very similar thoughts on our feelings about the show, because like the thing is, like, I adored this show when I watched it many years ago. And back then I had a little bit, I guess, less of things that I filtered.
Yeah.
Filtered out as like problematic, or just things that were a problem in general, or just even, oh wait, maybe I should think about this for more than 3 seconds. I was, in my early 20s and just, digesting every anime that I could find that I just thought looked good and had a good romance story, because finding a good romance in anime is actually really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because there's a lot of will they, won't they shows that I've watched, and there are very few will they, won't they animes that I actually walked out of liking. And I can at least say that with Inu X Boku Secret Service, you're going to get your resolution.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that back in the day that just really made it, I don't know, just cement its place as something special. Because I really cared about Riichio and Soshi. I wanted them to make it, or at least I wanted them to be able to love themselves.
Yeah.
And by the end, I felt like I had been given what I was told I was going to get on my plate. And that was a really well-developed romance. Now, everything around it was a little bit weird. And again, there are some problematic shots, especially within the production window of, let's look up everybody's skirt. Not exactly. The funny thing is, I don't think there was a single panty shot in this entire freaking anime.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of weird, like, up from below shots. It's so strange.
Up from below.
Up from below. The good old up from below. But yeah, putting those things aside, I think that this show is just something special. It's something that I'm happy that I have in my anime catalog. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe in like a good 6 years, I'll just be like, yeah, I'm going to go watch that show again, because I just really enjoyed the characters and I just love the production. I love how everything flows. We didn't talk about it, but there is a specific episode that's shot almost entirely in darkness.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the way they like outline Mauricio's eyes and hair in that entire episode was just like so captivating. I was like, oh, they went that extra mile to just make this look so different and cool. And you'll get that touch the whole show. There's no episode that seems to look like they just dropped the budget, and I think that is also attributed to its short length. Long story short, I think that it is something that deserves our Shoujo Treehouse seal of approval. I like it a lot too. I don't think that I necessarily love the show as much as I did a few years ago, but it's still charming and it's still something that I could see myself going back to again. So that's a high like it.
So I guess it gets the seal of approval from us both then, right?
Yeah. The first ever Shoujo Treehouse seal of approval.
Should we retroactively go back and decide if we give this to either of the other shows?
Sure, why not? So we have just Hyoka and Wandering Sun, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Hyoka. What you think?
I would say yes. I like Hyoka a lot. I thought it was good.
Oh, yeah, I think I could give that. I could give that our seal of approval. And Wandering Sun, 150%.
Yes,
I love that show. It out of the three, I think it deserves it the most.
I think the spoilers with Shoujo Treehouse most of the time, because it's one that we have seen and shared together, it's probably going to get a seal of approval.
I mean, you never know. Maybe I'll change my mind, and instead of making Yurikuma a host choice, I'll just drag it over here.
I mean, I can give an objective seal of approval. I can do that.
Or, I don't know, maybe I'll just force you to watch Flip Flappers again.
I mean, you do have some of that power. And again.
I do. I do. We it's beautiful. It's wonderful how this relationship lasts.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit you guys with some social links. So like we said at the beginning of the episode, if you want to give us some correspondence, if you do like these Shoujo Treehouse episodes, you can reach out to us one of two ways. One of them is on twitter.com/AnnieChatbox, and in short form, goodness, I really cannot words today. Go ahead, add us. Please add us, bro. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
You can also send us an email at anniechatmail@gmail.com. And if you want us to read something specifically on a Shoujo Treehouse, then just, write us there and just say Shoujo Treehouse or something, and we'll make it happen. If you're listening to us on one thing, we're available on many others. We are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. And we have a lovely slew of Patreons. If you want to be one of them, you can go to patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. But for right now, our lovely little box of patrons includes Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, Paul, and TroubleClef. And I'm going to plug them anyway, just because I feel like it. We have a lovely little sister podcast called Save Our Progress. Craig is on there. Zach's on there. Zach sometimes guest hosts on our show, and we sometimes guest show on theirs, and that's at soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. Also, we, just to make this a statement, we no longer take requests outside of our Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something that you want us to review on Shoujo Treehouse or on our mainstay Annie Chatbox, you can feel free to send us a suggestion via email, but the only way that we're going to commit to it is if you basically saddle up and pay us. Time is money, and we don't have a whole lot of it. So if we're going to take time to do something we're not entirely sure if we're going to enjoy, we are asking for that monetary support. That being said, before our Patreon went up, we did have a request to do Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, so we'll be doing that next episode, whenever that will be. So look forward to that. You know who you are.
Yes. And thank you so much for following up and enjoying these episodes to that person.
Yeah, for sure.
I will also say as well, I believe that there is a one-time payment option for a request, so I don't think it is tied to a continued subscription. But we'll go, obviously, if you have issues finding those payment options, if you have any inquiries, just email us at anniechatmail@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you and help figure that out.
Yeah, we can take one-time payments, even if you can't figure it out on Patreon. If you toss us an email, we have no problem with, you sending it directly to us through PayPal or something. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
You just have to reach out to us, or we don't know.
Yep.
Indeed. But yeah. Want to step into a soft little spoiler room for a little bit?
Oh, you bet I do.
All right. You wanna top us off, or not? Start us off. Top us off. Start us off. Whatever.
Start us
Whatever
off.
you do.
So actually, when you were talking about the fact that this show has an end as far as the will they won't they, I'm kicking myself because I didn't highlight that in story, which I do think is part of what makes this such a successful romance anime. And let me just say, even though I wish it was shot a little differently, I am really happy we also got a kiss, because I'm a sucker for that, and it was sweet. I mean, that whole scene, that confession scene, I think is really, really sweet, and I love it, and it gives me warm fuzzies.
Yeah, there's just such a roller coaster of emotions that happened in the last couple episodes of the show. I just to rewind it a little bit, when you find out about the letters, the fact that they'd been exchanging letters for years.
Yeah.
And when Kagero's like, "Oh, those weren't written by me," and she was like, duh, do you think I'm fucking blind? I never loved Orichio more than in that moment. I was like, yeah, girl.
Get it.
I did like that she didn't automatically think it was Soshi, that she didn't piece that together.
Mm-hmm.
I did feel a bit cheated that Kagero was the one who told her.
I
Yeah.
get that, but I also just love the part when the elevator opens and she sees him after she, like, has the epiphany. And like you said, like, that whole goddamn scene where they're just looking at each other and she's like, it was you. And then they, like, they fall over and hug in the elevator.
It is very soft, and I love it, and I don't know how maybe we would have had that elevator scene without Kagero, so I guess I will begrudgingly admit it's not the worst choice. I just wish Soshi could have told her.
Yeah, Soshi, like, and I wonder again if it goes back to his upbringing and that he always feels like he, you know, his feelings are never put first. His, like, what his wants and his needs, and, like, even if anybody would, like, care about the things he did, he was kind of brought up to just be completely submissive in that way. So I wonder if he was just like, I have no right to tell her, almost. Like, which is a real bummer. But yeah, it does translate into some weird conflict and, like, weird writing leading up to that whole snafu. But the way that it is resolved, I think, is very sweet. Yeah. Their conflict before that, like that one scene where he, like, makes her cry, like, how did you feel about that? Was that believable, or was that, like, kind of melodramatic for you?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this show would have benefited from a couple more episodes. Because Soshi is never shown up until that point of actually being that angrily jealous.
Yeah.
Like, he always seems to be in control of his emotions, and I don't know if it's just that added, like, hatred that you or not maybe necessarily hatred, but, like, discontent that you find out about that he has for Kagero due to the fact that he knows his secret and he's playing it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, that added tension also made him act out at Rorichio.
Yeah.
But just the things that he said felt a little forced, where he's just like, oh, you just lead men on and things like that. And it's like, what? And I don't think he ever, like, fully apologizes for that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like, I feel like Mauricio is tied up and ends up feeling like a lot of things are her fault when it's really not. It's all external factors surrounding her. And, like, that is kind of, like, that's a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. But I think, thankfully, again, it is resolved well. And I think it was also just a case, again, of anime being like, hey, we need a build up. And it's not, like, the worst of it that I have seen. But yeah. So, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think saying it's complicated is a good response.
I did think that her reaction made me feel better, because she was like, you're not being yourself today.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, and, like, she like hit his hand away.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, she left. Like, I was so proud of her in that moment, because we've never seen her stick up for herself.
Yeah.
Outside of her, like, you know, baseline, like, constantly being smug about things that she says and then hating it later. But she never advertently, like, gets angry or upset with somebody to the point where she tells them off. And so I did like that part of that moment. I also like when she walked around, she reasonably, you know, broke into tears.
Yeah.
Like, it was, like, her emotions, I think, in that scene were perfect. Her reactions were perfect. It's just, I'm not entirely sure I believe that Soshi would actually say that to her without more context.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, like, I think if anything in that scene, Soshi's writing was just a little bit weird or a little bit forced. But overall, it was good. And what did you think of Mauricio, like, hiding in a hole when she basically accidentally confessed without, like, having the space, like, the agency too? Like, after she found out she sent that text, and then she's like, I'm literally just gonna hide in this, like, this little, like, tunnel and be scared.
I mean, that's a mood. I mean, I like, when I make mistakes or feel like I've done something embarrassing, I also sometimes want to just go and crawl into a hole. Yeah. The fact that she actually did it is kind of impressive.
Yeah, I think when I was in high school, I used to do a lot of the, like, run into bathroom stalls and cries thing, so I can't hold it against her.
I still do that all the time, at least once a week.
It's hard, yo. It's a hard knock life.
Yeah, that minimum wage life.
Yeah. Well, and then
But-
I guess it made the confession also more powerful because she is like, okay, she had to gather the feelings to basically bring herself out and bring herself forward and express what she wanted to say to Soshi. It was good.
Yeah, because he didn't accept the letter confession.
Right.
Yeah, because he was like, I can't, I won't take this as anything other than that. And when she's like, oh, it didn't mean anything, he's like, oh yeah, I know.
Right, it's
And
fine.
like you could see how much that hurt her. Like it was like, she was like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean that you what? And then she makes the effort, and I think that the best part is that she makes the effort to tell him, not just for herself, but because she wants him to realize that there is someone who loves him and accepts him. And I just am broken.
I can't handle that scene. Now I have to rewatch it. Like, and like the first time I watched it, every time I rewatched it, like I remember being in the kitchen with Jazz at like 2 a.m, and like I cry every time. It's just that good stuff. That good stuff.
I screen capped it. Like the last sentence of that scene is, if my words were able to reach you, I'm truly happy. There's no happier feeling than this. And I was like, the payoff.
Yes.
It's so palpably good. Delicious.
Exactly.
Finally some good fucking food.
Delicious food. I think if I recall from other people, I've heard very mixed reactions about like that very, very last end note where he's like, they're on the couch and he's like, there's only one thing I've ever wanted. I've wanted children. I guess I can understand where it's creepy, but like also they're not gonna have kids now. Like it's a future wish. Whatever. Like, yeah. What do you think about that?
It's complicated, much like everything else in the show for the most part. I think that the fact that he is a 22, 23-year-old man looking at a 16-year-old who hasn't got her life together and saying, I want babies, is, like, I don't have any problem with their age gap except for in that moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can't say that to a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
You can't do it and it not sound bad.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
but given his backstory and the fact that he's not saying, I want babies right now, he's just saying, this is a dream I have and I just want you to know that it's something that I want in the future. It makes it a little bit better because he never had a family. He never had a mother, really.
Yeah.
He never had those familial ties. And now that he actually has someone he's romantically involved with, an actual legitimate connection, and he wants to basically expand that connection into a family he never had, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's complicated.
It's complicated. That should just be, that's the label for this episode. It's like
It's complicated.
a person with their hands thrown up. It's complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's creepy if you don't understand the implications, because it just seems like an older man trying to, get a young girl to fuck
Yeah.
and commit to something that she's not old enough or mature enough to commit to. But that's not what it's intended to be. It's intended to be a sweet note to leave off on.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately, like, just the way that some of the lead up to it and just the fact that they have such a big age difference. Because, like, if it was two 16-year-olds having that conversation on a couch or two 25-year-olds, nobody would care.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, I've read plenty of, like, shoujo manga where teens of the same age, like, do have sex, like, consensually, and it's not, there's not all those, red flags, because of the context is different, as you said.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. And honestly, it's a lot less creepy than the whole thing when she finds the room and he's like, you said you'd accept everything about me.
And she's like, I didn't know this was the real you.
Yeah. But again, I think that's more of a lighthearted joke, so it's fine.
Is it though?
It's complicated. Were there any other spoilers you had in mind to talk about?
No, really. I think we covered most of them. Most of the beginning of the show isn't really worth spoiling because most of it's just antics. I think that the big meat of it is the letters, the outcome of it actually being that they are able to confess and get a kissing scene. Okay, one thing about the kissing scene that bothered me, though.
Ooh, yeah.
These little kids.
Oh my
show
god,
up,
yeah.
and Mauricio's like, can we maybe take this somewhere else? I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to, have this, like, lovey-dovey, like, affair in front of, like, 5-year-olds. And so she's like, don't worry, baby. I'll show you how it's done. And I'm just like...
And he sniffs her? Do you remember the part where he sniffs her?
Yeah, he sniffs her. That's, like, one of his first fucking things he does. When she's like, I love you. And he's just like... holds her, and that part's sweet, but then, like, almost his immediate reaction is to be like, oh, you smell like the strawberries, like...
Oh, I need to quote my wonderful questionable fiance for his word case. I can't remember where we were talking about sniffing, but he described, like, creepy sniffing like Soshi did as taking a deep whiff. And so when they are at the park, so she's like, all right, she's mine, let me just take a deep whiff right here.
I mean, I kind of get it, but, like, at the same time, I'm like even she's like, don't do that.
Don't sniff me in front of the 5-year-olds.
Yeah, like why were there children? Like, they didn't need that. Just make them go away.
Just let it be sweet, like... And it's still sweet, but I agree with you. It's kind of awkward.
It's like, why was this necessary? But there's a lot of times in the show where I was like, why is this necessary? And then I just had to be like, just don't think about it. Just stop. Just
don't question too much. Oh, yeah.
Just look the other way. You're nothing bad here.
Looks to the left, looks to the right. Oh, goodness. What good times.
Said. For sure. I had a good time. I had a good time talking with you about it, and I'm probably going to have a good time talking with you about it throughout the week when I remember, like, little things that I didn't say on this episode.
As it happens every time we review something, I feel.
At least it wasn't like some of the episodes where we finished recording, like Annie Chatbox, and I'm like, oh man, there was this really freaking big point that I forgot to bring up, and it was kind of important.
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
Yeah, no, I think, thankfully, we get into our groove, and then we cover a lot of ground on our Shoujo Treehouse, so I'm proud of us. We're great.
We do our best here at Annie Chatbox / Shoujo Treehouse.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that we have spent a good amount of time here in this treehouse, and I am gonna go play more Fire Emblem.
Girl. Go, girl.
But yeah, thank you for joining us on episode Trace a la Shoujo Treehouse. Look forward to our next one where we will be covering Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, probably the first season, I would assume.
Yeah.
Probably just the first season, but we will watch it, we will review it, and we will talk about it. I don't know when, probably within the next month to 6 months from now. We'll see you then.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Have a good night.